who have added who have attended to add radiance to this webinar. Once again, I welcome you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Afri. Now I would request Rashmi Joshi to introduce our chief guest for the day.
Good morning, everyone. Myself, Rashmi Joshi from 7th SEM E&C department. I'd like to introduce our resource person, Dr. Nitin Kulkarni. Sir is a mechanical engineer, PhD in human resource management, and has experience spanning over 35 years in industry, R&D, innovation, consulting, and teaching. Sir is the founder director of KLE Center for Technological Innovation and Entrepreneurship at KLE Technological University, Hubli. KLE-CTI's focus is to enable world-class startups in the region. His industrial experience spans over 18 years, mainly in aerospace, automotive, consumer electronics, and industrial tooling. His last industry job was at Microsoft Corporation USA as a group engineering manager. He is credited with designing and implementing end-to-end hardware product building capabilities at Microsoft Corporation. Prior to taking up the current role at KLE-CTIE, he was a faculty at SDM College of Engineering and Technology, Dharwad, with a focus on building and enabling employable engineering graduates. His interventions in this regard were received very well and resulted in unprecedented results for the student community. At KLE-CTIE, he has designed and experimented with various interventions driving campus entrepreneurship. Many of these interventions are now being emulated in many engineering campuses across India. Today, KLE-CTIE has support system from pre-incubation to scaling up of startups. He is also responsible for building strategic relationship between many government agencies and has resulted KLE-CTIE becoming a technology business incubator DST sponsored Tide 2.0 Meet by GOI BIMSME. He serves various universities in India and around the world as a visiting scholar and professional, including University of Massachusetts, Lowell, USA, Nanjing University of Post and Telecommunication, Nanjing, China, SR Engineering College, Warangal, Telangana, Karnataka Higher Education Academy, Dharwad, Vardhaman College of Engineering, Hyderabad, Indian STEP and Business Incubators Association. Thank you.
Thank you, Rashmi. Now I would request Dr. Nitin Kulkarni, sir, to take over the most awaited session. Sir, please just give me a minute. I'll share your presentation. Sir, you could take over the session, please.
Okay, so thank you so much, and I really appreciate the effort put in by Tontadare College of Engineering, Gadag. It's been one of the most active and pioneering in trying to bring the concept of new ideation, ideologies into the student community, and I guess that would not have happened with the people at the helm who really understand the need of this. And in this regard, I would like to congratulate Principal Dr. Avti. He's been from day one since I have known him. He's always been trying to churn things around to make best possible opportunity provided to the students. And one of the current sessions today and tomorrow, I think it will open up a variety of avenues for students because I think this is the need of the hour. With that said, I just would like to quickly jump into this concept of angel investing and venture capital. If all of you are aware, India is a startup country now. I will just try to connect with some preamble. Once upon a time, India was a startup country before Britishers took over. There was hardly a concept of 9 to 5 job or a government job which is guaranteed for lifetime. However, with the advance of Britishers into India, all these household expertise, whether it's key making, bamboo related products, agriculture, they all started losing their sheen because people like the idea of going to office between 9 and 5 and then getting the paycheck at the end of the month. So that led eventually and systematically over the last 100, years that entrepreneurship is only for people who either have a lot of money, don't know how to spend it, or somebody who don't get a job, borrow money from somebody else and start a business. But I think from the last 5, 6, 7 years, I'm seeing this stigma attached to this startup has gone down. And I think in that context, angel investing and venture capital makes a perfect sense to understand as to what these are. Next, please. Next slide. Okay. Are we on the second slide? I think there is one slide before this.
Yes, sir. Just a minute. Yes, sir. This is it.
Okay. So what is it? We have been sort of dealing with COVID since March of 2020, as you all know. Many people find it extremely difficult to cope up with it. So is the business community as well. But despite all these oddities, there are certain strengths that India is demonstrating, and it can be explicitly seen based on these numbers. And you as students might be wondering what this has got to do with us. I will tell you, the most of these 7 key strength areas have been extremely ably supported by engineering community. The graduates of engineering of variety of disciplines have made this thing happen, and one great example of that is our acceleration towards digital economy. And many of you, if you recall, earlier you did not know the only way to get money was either to go to the bank, and then ATMs came. But now we hardly do that, right? Hard cash in hand is becoming smaller and smaller in quantity because digital economy is taking leadership. In fact, if you had read a newspaper a couple of days ago, RBI is now looking into a digital currency practice starting from October of this month. So all these things will make us do things quickly, and that brings us to the international forum where we look a lot more credible, lot more confident, and lot more capable. And I think in that context, if you look into the second item, the founders of these startups, as I mentioned earlier, startup had a stigma, but now post COVID or even during COVID, people with lot of capability, lot of hands-on experience, lot of technical horsepower jumped into startups because they thought that this is a right opportunity for them. Just the second way we knew that oxygen was a challenge for us supplying to the hospital, so suddenly many startups started looking into oxygen generating concentrators and stuff like that. And then Hubli, we have seen that happen substantially. Non-touch temperature measurement, or even sanitizer dispenser. I mean, these are all, as you could see, never existed in India before. So much so that including PPE kit making, then all kinds of sanitizers or hygienic equipments, they all got a lot of impetus, and then many startups did pretty well during the COVID. So that essentially is happening because these technologies who had engineering degree did not just believe in taking up a job, but they looked at taking up an opportunity, right? And then deep technology is growing extremely well in India. When I say deep technology, it could be either machine learning or IoT or even artificial intelligence, which used to be a buzzwords we only used to listen when somebody held a international conference. But today they are all being practiced in India, and they're being applied to a lot of initiatives like in agriculture technology. And now you're, if you look into these 7, it essentially makes you, if you're an engineering student or a faculty, that engineering is not about sitting in the classroom and learning. It's precisely about applying it in a manner that people get wowed and their problem get resolved. Next, please. Next slide. Okay. So as I was mentioning, one slide, please. Just one slide back. Just go back one slide, please. Okay.
Yes, sir.
There it is. Now, if you see, and what has that resulted into? India now ranks as the third global startup country. I used to teach this particular subject in the University of Massachusetts during our exchange program, starting from 2014. And I remember talking about Indian situation then. India was like seventh in 2013 or 14. I don't remember exact year. But today we are talking about putting four countries behind us and into the third level, which I'm sure we can really put our effort in there and then get into the most coveted space of the first, wherein startups, are the lifeline of Indian economy. Today, over 1,600 have been added up in 2020 alone. Now, this shows that Indians are really good in understanding opportunity, ideating for the opportunity. If it is a challenge, then resolving it and building a business around it. So, in my 37 years of industry and academic experience, one thing that was kept being told to us is that Indians are good in two things. One is negotiating. Second one is mathematics, which we all agree, because the way we do cognitively the maths, it could be simple transaction, whether you work with some illiterate or seemingly illiterate rural community, but they are not illiterate because their maths numbers are so built in, which people really get amazed. But there is one thing that they say, that though you are good in negotiations and maths, managing people was not something that Indians are really good at. They cannot be good managers. But guess what? Now, if you look around, the company that I work for, Microsoft, has Satya Nadella, who is from India, and likewise, as you probably can recall, there's so many Indians who are at the level of global CEOs, which was unprecedented. So, what am I trying to tell you here is, as a student, you learn engineering in the classroom, you apply, you seek opportunity, you develop a solution, and now you not only can negotiate, use your math skills, but you can also be a great manager, so that you can build a successful startup. But successful startup does not really and merely depend upon the engineering expertise. It depends on something which is also equally more important, and that is what we call as funding or financing. Next slide, please. So with the technology as a background, uh, please go to the next slide. Okay, with technology as a background, we can see that is being reflected in the form of what we call as knowledge-based industries, something that brings in substantial use of technology and connect that to the human capability. That is why all of you are important. Though you are here to get an engineering degree, why it matters that your engineering degree should mean something to somebody is when you really understand the technological basics that you take up in the classroom, and then use your internal potency to develop something else. And that is when knowledge based industries will become. And it could be in the area of education, science, finance, insurance, information technology. Just think of anything else, there is always room for technology to play a major role in it. And today, knowledge based businesses or startups are making customers work in real time. The work from home situation of the Indian or the global workforce, doing transactions online to buy stuff, though the shops are closed. It clearly tells that engineers are driving this economy forward, and they are doing it through what we call as knowledge based industry. Next, please. So, as I mentioned, technology prowess or strength is one, but you also need one other important contribution to this ideation and product development, which is naturally funding. So, there is a common terminology that is being used as angel investment. Many of you might have heard about it, but it is purely can be seen from two perspectives. One, who is an angel? Angel in Kannada is called like Devaduta, or somebody like coming as almost equivalent as a god. And investment, of course, is putting money. So somebody who comes as an angel and puts money in the startup. But why do they do that? They're doing it not because they feel appreciative about what you do, but they are putting it because they think that you have a great idea, you are a great person, and you can do a great job. Because it's an expensive proposition. As you know, if you have some money in your pocket, you can invest, right? Investing is putting the money where it grows. That's what the investment is all about. So the best way to do is go to the bank and open up an account. So after a year, you get some interest. So the money has grown. Now that is 4, 5, 7%, right? But angel investors are somebody who are ready to take this risk to make X amount of money into 10x, and that is where these angel investment come into picture, and they do it where the money has to go. It depends on variety of issues, which I will just quickly as we go along. So next, please. Next slide. Hello. Okay. So we all talked about technology expertise, opportunity seeking, developing a product, solving a problem, right? And that's how you build a startup. But also, as I mentioned, money is equally important, funding is equally important. So one of that concept is what we are looking as angel investment. Angel investors are essentially people who have a lot of money, okay, and they don't want to invest, or they have already done investment in banks, mutual funds, or shares, because that's where they make money. But they also find that there is one other way or one other avenue with which they can invest money, which is becoming an angels. And these angels essentially take a small ownership of the company. Let's say you have started a company. I come in and see that you are a great person, you have a great product idea, you need money to take your product from concept to marketable product. So I say, well, I'm ready to put X amount of money, for which I say you give me certain percentage of ownership of the company. Because by having that kind of ownership, I always know that today I have invested, let's say, 10 lakh rupees, and if the product becomes really successful in the market, that 10 lakh might be turned into 10 crores probably few years down the road. And that's a big risk that I am taking as an angel investor, because I only see what you are doing today. What I don't know is, can you do the same and similar kind of work 3 or 4 years from now? I don't know. That's the risk that I'm taking. And I don't even know whether this product is going to be successful, though I like it. So with all those risk factors involved, I put money because of certain good reasons, and then eventually the company, if it grows, I make a lot of money. That is why it is called investor from an angel like a person, because if the angel did not show up, the idea would have died. Okay, that's we call valley of death, which I will come to later. So many companies like Uber, WhatsApp, Facebook may have made many invested in many as an angel investor in many of the startups, and there are a lot of success stories that you can read about. And it all happened because somebody thought, hey, there are a good set of people, they have great idea, there is a great market for the product that they're working on. Let's try to help them financially, and that's how the concept of angel investment came about. Next, please. And question is, oh, well, who are these guys, right? Only people having money. It could be your friends and family who would like to support as a startup. I have seen in CTI many times the companies that we have are supported by family and friends in the beginning. Without their help, the idea would have died right there at the idea level itself. And there are professionals such as people who make a lot of money, doctors, lawyers, and bankers. They don't know where to put this extra money. Of course, it's all legally acquired money, and they are willing to put as an angel. And there could be business executives who can bring in not only money, but they also can bring in vast experience of theirs, and then can help the startup also. And there could be fellow entrepreneurs who have interest in what you do, or it's a complementing business, so they would like to invest. And also there is a concept of professional angels who actually are a bunch of people with the money come together and look for great ideas. And all these guys, by the way, are existing. It's not a hypothetical situation. These are all happening as we speak. And there are angel syndicates. We work with a couple of them at KLE CTI, who are always looking for great ideas, great people, and they are willing to put in money depending upon the situation and the risk that they see. And of course, there are always big business owners. You might have seen all the Infosys founders are now having their own angel slash venture capital vehicles. So what they do, they say that, okay, we are technologists, we understand technology, we also over the years have understood what is a good idea, and if we find some young, energetic, enthusiastic people who are willing to go ahead and then build the solutions, we are ready to put the money. So it's almost as good as sort of motivating them, saying that you just do whatever that you are good at, we will help you, guide you, mentor you, and then fund you. And that is why they are called angels, because they help you not just money wise, but they also help you with so many other aspects that you might not necessarily have those expertise with you. Next, please. Next slide. Okay, now to understand this, you also must understand what is the life cycle of a startup. I'm sure you're all technologists, you know what is a life cycle. The lifeline, or the way in which some things get born, it grows and eventually matures and eventually withers away or dies. And that's what we call a life cycle. Startups also have a life cycle. And very simply put, I don't want you to get confused with so many stages in there. Anything that we would like to develop as a solution must come as an idea, right? I have an idea to solve the water problem of this world. Okay, so idea is in my head, and that is the stage one, wherein we are dreaming beyond what is obvious. We are having courage enough to dream big, right? And that is what we call as idea. But every idea cannot be a business, because we get ideas almost every minute or every second we start thinking about it. However, few ideas are worth the validation. Here, validation essentially means whose problem are we solving? How is it being solved? What is so great about our solution? And why should people get excited about our solution? And if that gets clearly visible, then you have an idea which is validated to sustain as a product. Then let's say you start working on it, but you need money to hire right kind of people to start your business to go get going. So you need what we call as an early stage or a seed funding. This is the second stage of a life cycle of a startup. This is a very critical stage, and this is also called uh, can lead into a successful startup, or can dead drop into what we call valley of death. Because without money, things cannot move just purely on idea. So here, where people like family, friends, angel investors come into pictures, and it could be sometimes government grants, like the way we are providing that in KLEC tie. So here is where a lot of help is required. Here people are really hustling, they want to do something great, but they need somebody to support them from all sides. And the third stage is what we call as a growth scale up stage, wherein here the ideas are proven, the proof of concept is developed, business seems to be taking shape, and we have identified the consumers, and also can probably sell it to some of the customers to ensure that their feedback is put into the system. So now you see, start with an idea, get all the necessary resources that you need to make the idea a reality, then take the reality or realized product to the customer, and that is the third stage. And the last stage is the maturity stage, wherein it becomes part of your life. Okay, we produce water filters that does not require power, and that does not require the candle to be changed every 3 months, and it can go on and on for 6 years without replacing anything. All you have to do is just pour the water on the top and get the fresh drinkable water at the bottom. If this is my product idea, and if people start buying in the market, I beat Kent, I beat Tata Swatch, and then I become a market leader, then I'm at the mature stage. So now you understand what started as an idea led into a completely marketable, viable product. And that is what we call the startup life cycle. Now, many die at these various stages. You might have heard a lot of such examples. And these examples are so much that every 8 startups typically die out of 10 in either one, two, or the third stage. If they ever get to the fourth stage, then we come to know that there is a brand value created around it, and then that's when things starts picking up. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay, so that's pictorially represented. Just once. Go back one. Okay. Now the same thing that I discussed, it is represented pictorially, wherein timeline against revenue. All engineers, engineering students, I'm sure you can understand this two-dimensional graph. As I said, the first thing where the seed capital or angels are required is what we call as the stage two, wherein if that help did not appear, the startup would die, and that's why it's called valley of death. Here they don't make any money; they only consume money. They continue to spend money till they hit a break even point, and then it's continued to grow. And then of course comes venture capitalists, and then strategic alliances, merger acquisitions, IPOs, and those things will happen. It's a good story, but till that good story emerges, there is a lot of heartburn, pain, struggle, that goes through to pull the startup out of the valley of death and to become what we call as a successful startup. So this is typical life cycle of funding of a startup depending upon the stage of the startup that is in. And once if they ever get to initial public offering, which is also represented as IPO, you might be realizing now Zomato, which started as a food delivery startup, people probably laughed at it. If you are to order something from a nearby restaurant, and all you had to do is just either go yourself, or have somebody pick it up for you, or have the man from that place send it to you, seemingly like very non-value added activity. But guess what Zomato did? They built a value on this platform called Zomato, and they really struggled hard, and their validity came during the lockdown. So to me, it appears that the lockdown was a savior of Zomato, and people started realizing the importance of having such solution when you are even afraid to get out. But there are people who took appropriate care to get you the food that you're looking for. Now that actually tells ideas can be very simplistic, they can be very deceiving, they appear to be very mundane, who cares about this idea kind of thing. But if you build muscle around it, then it suddenly becomes so appreciative by the angel investors and the venture capitalists, and of course finally the customers. One other example that I can give of is the Paytm. Right, there is Google Pay, then there is now Amazon Pay, there are Beam from government of India. But what Phone Pay did, that they actually, like Phone Pay and then the other such financial gateways, they enabled people to do business such that there is very easy for you to function, and seamlessly you can function. Now such ideas, when you start thinking, you see there are already so many players out there. What am I going to do something different? This is where technologies come into picture. Here money doesn't matter, but what you bring in as a technology can be a game changer for many people. I remember when we used to use credit card first time in during 90s, the cards was actually swapped on a piece of paper, and then it was imprinted on the paper, and that paper on which you sign, and the paper is sent to the credit card company to get the money by the business owner. But today, as you know, you don't even have to swipe the card. You can just touch it, like if you have a touch card from SBI or any such offerers. Now you know from where the printed piece of paper was to be signed and scanned and sent to somebody else. Today it just happens by touching the card against the machine. And all this is what we call as the technology leadership. So as I mentioned, technology is the key, funding is the key, but depending upon what stage of the life cycle that you are at, one makes more sense than the other. So that is why no idea is a bad idea as long as it is executed effectively. Next slide, please. Okay, so I had already talked about this. As I said, the seed or the angel round is typically what we call as the means of funding. Otherwise, the startup would go and then die down in the valley of death. And then, of course, once if it is through the valley of death, then there is a venture capitalist, and then other funding opportunities are available. Then, of course, the public offering and beyond. Next, please. Next slide. Can I get next slide?
Sir, just a minute. Actually, there's a little network issue. I'm sharing it, I guess, at your end, it's not visible.
Okay. Okay, now the question comes, uh, why would anybody become an angel investors, right? There is a lot of risk, no guarantees that people work the way they work today, no guarantee that the product they develop is sellable, no guarantee that they make money, no guarantee that the brand can be built. But there people are more and more keen on becoming angel investors because especially the technologists who have acquired a lot of money doing, in their business life, they feel very well connected to startup. It gives them immense satisfaction to take up a challenge and help people who are trying to solve it. So it could be for them personally, they can diversify their investments. They're not just bank accounts or mutual funds or stock options, but now they can diversify into startups. And they can not only that, they can bring in this professional quality to the startup wherein they say that, look, this is how things can be done. It's done better this way, the accounting has to be done this way, technology development, version management. You just imagine anything. And the other best part of this is, if an angel investor puts in money, his interest or her interest is to make the startup successful. So he or she will connect the startup to where the customers could be, where networking with the right kind of partners who can help them technically. So now this community around the startup grows. And I think for institutions like KLE or TC Gadag, why it is important to connect to angel investors by building certain best quality startup on campuses, because they bring in substantial connection with the world outside the campus, which we have actually seen at Hubli, wherein the people otherwise would not have come to Hubli, but they are coming exclusively because they have a link up with a startup. I think that brings in the quality change in the mind of people who are working there. The level of expectations rise, and people really raise the bar on quality. I think that is exactly why incubators must encourage their startups to build value creation and then have them get connected to angels. Next, please. Okay, so now apart from taking a risk and potentially making money, Government of India recently brought in some good tax advantage to angel investors. So if you as a angel investor invest in the startups, then there are substantial tax exemptions that you can claim, so that you really feel that government is also supporting you for taking that risk. This has been on the table for a while. Many startups and then incubators, including us, represented together and then presented to Government of India. Eventually this was approved, and many angels are now taking this as a fabulous opportunity for them to invest into startups which otherwise were very hesitant to get in. Next slide, please. Okay, now not all is good about angel investing, right? Because the first thing is you could lose money. As I mentioned, if 8 out of 10 startups die, then if you had put money in there, money is gone along with the company itself. So naturally, there's a great risk of losing money. And even if you make money, you don't know when you are going to make money. It could be just few years to tens of years, because depending upon the type of the company, some can be very quick in going to public, and some will take long time, especially if you are an electronics engineer and if you are building a product. The product companies typically have a period of about 5 to 7 years before they really can make a dent in the market. Whereas if it is a software company, naturally the lead time is much smaller. So depending upon which company you invest in, the periods are most uncertain and sometimes they can be long. So it is something which is definitely a negative side of angel investment. And the third thing, and then the obvious thing, is it's unknown, right? I mean, you believe this student who is very smart, and then he or she had a product idea and you invested money in her company, but that person after marriage got changed, or the person decided to take on higher studies and then leave the company. So now what are you going to do? Whoever replaces him or her probably might not be as capable, but your money is already invested and it might not make at the end of the day to a success, because the journey is so unknown. So naturally there are a lot of downsides of angel investing, but that is why what people do, They just don't invest in one company and then hope that it becomes big. They invest in multitudes of companies. So out of 10 companies, if 8 fail, the 2 that they invested might make money, which covers for all the losses that they incurred. And this is typically how averaging out their losses is worked in angel investment as well. Next slide, please. So there is help available from Government of Karnataka, and if any of you are interested, I just have put in there because KITS Government of Karnataka initiative on Innovation and Technology Society definitely helps startups as well, so you can connect to them. But this is just a matter of fact that I have put in there. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay. So now comes venture capital. This is also one more buzzword that you might hear every now and then, right? There is angel investment and there is venture capital. Are they the same? Is there a difference? Then which is good? Which one that you need to go? Now we have seen from the life cycle of a company, you start with some idea, some money in your pocket, and you start working on it. Somebody comes between and say that, hey, great job. By the way, I like your product. I would like to invest. They become angels, and then the product gets developed, it goes into the market, people like it, they start buying it, but you need to scale up because you cannot only sell it to 10 customers, 20 customers, 100 customers. You need to produce in literally lakhs and lakhs of these products, and that requires money, and that is when you need to go to what we call as venture capital. It is essentially a financial tool. Venture capital is a financial tool where investment is made from institutions. It's typically not an individual investment, it is an institutional investment. What does this institutional investment mean? Few of these individual investors come together, they form what we call as a venture capital company, and now they start looking for specific industries to or startups to invest in, just like the way angels work, but here the rules are little different. Now these people are extremely business minded. They don't go by emotion. They say that, well, if you are in healthcare technology and if your device is going to help measure the anemia of a patient even without sucking a blood or taking a blood from the person, then I'm interested in investing in it, because every time when the needle has to be pricked, blood has to be collected, lot of hygiene, and then other factors come in which will increase the time and the cost of testing for anemia, right? So now without even making a prick into your finger, taking the blood out, if you can measure anemia quickly within few seconds, then I'm very much interested in. So now you understand, venture capitals are purely seeing a value proposition that you put together. They really do not care too much about, you are young, you're from a smaller company, you have really struggled hard, you are a nice person, none of that matter to them. And these guys raise capital, the bunch of people who come and then call themselves venture capitalists, they raise capital from other investments or investors and then create these funds, and these funds are typically very large, in few hundreds of crores, sometimes thousands of crores, and depending upon the stage at which the company is, they might come in and then make an offer. One of the startup that we have which analyzes the urine protein using an IoT device is now being very actively looked by the venture capitalists, so much so that they are already giving a letter of intent to this company saying that we are very keen on investing it. Let's know your terms and conditions. So understand, this company started by two biotechnology students at KLE Tech, did a lot of struggle for the last 5-7 years. They did variety of products, and suddenly they embarked on the need for this, and they associated with Kim's at Hubli, worked with the doctors there, realized that the protein content in the urine of a person is telling so many things which otherwise has to be done as an individual test. So they came up with this IoT device, built it, designed, built, and then developed it locally. Now, just in one shot, one of the venture capital from center from Gujarat is willing to invest 3 crore rupees, just like that. They sent the letter of intent there. Now understand, for this company, 3 crores is substantial sum. But the fact is, it is not the persons that they looked at. It is not that Hubli, oh, it's old, it's a sort of a tier 2 city, we should go and then help these guys. No, none of that mattered. For them, the idea was great, value proposition was extremely good, and they say that we are ready to invest in. So this is how venture capitalists perform. They're cutthroat, they're business minded, they really grill you to the last detail, and if you look very good, then money pours in, and that's how VCs invest. Next, please. Now, also venture capitalists, again, extremely high risk, but there is also great reward because they don't come at the seed level. Remember, angels come at the seed level, but ventures come at the scale up level. So I have made 100 of these products, but now I need to make 100,000 of them because Amazon wants to sell it, or let's say we would like to export it to US or to some other African countries. I need to make about a lakh of these pieces. I need money. That is when venture capitalists come, but they know that the 100,000 or 1 lakh of these units might not get sold or might not get exported because of so many other challenges, but they're ready to take that risk. So it is taking, understanding the risk, seeing the product, getting the commitment, looking at the timeline, and eventually making the funding. And this goes through, typically VCs come 2-3 times to review the startups. Every time they bring in and seek lot of details, and those are the ones which they use to finally make a call. And some of them might be saying that we only invest in software companies. Some VCs might say we only will invest in medical devices. So they can be center specific or sector specific, or they can be just, we are willing to look at any great startup and we are willing to invest into this. One other important feature of venture capital is that most of these investments are long term. Unlike angels timeline is typically 2 to 3 years, but these guys are willing to work with the startups up to 5 to 10 years depending upon the type of the business. And during all that period, they continuously work with the startup. They have their directors on the board, and they will actually guide them, connect them to a lot of other willing people to help these, because together they know they can win and everybody becomes a winner in there. And by just a means of investing into the company, they naturally would get certain percentage of the ownership of the company like angels, but this chunk could be typically large because the investment volume is also equally large. Okay, next slide please. Next slide. Okay, now what do they decide upon? Just because I'm a good looking person, have a good looking name for my startup, I have studied in a fancy institution, do they come and invest in my startup? Probably not. The clear measure of their investment depends on, to begin with, at least with the three major criteria. One is, what are you doing, which is product, and for that product, how big is the market? This is purely a number game. Now, what are you doing, and how many of such products can be sold in the market? Of course, along with comes the competitive analysis. Who else is there in the market? How much are they selling it for? What is your unique selling proposition or so great about technology that you're bringing in? And the third important thing is, who are behind all this? Now, let me tell you one other thing. I have seen so many engineering graduates starting up their business, and many a times when they try to pitch the product or the company, they talk about technology. They say that we are using the latest motherboard in there, or maybe processor in there, or this or that. Let me tell you very frankly, none of these investors care about that. They really don't want to know what is inside that box, but they only want to know what is the differentiator for this box as compared to their competitors. They can do it in 20 hours, but we can do it in 20 seconds. That's a great substantial value add for them. I'll give you an example. One of our students of 2015 batch came up with an idea for architects. So architects actually develop the blueprint, and from there they develop the 3D virtual model of the house before it is built, right? Then based on the inputs from the customers, that can be modified and then changed, and final plan is fixed, but it takes at least 3 to 4 weeks depending upon the details that you want to put in. What this student did during his final semester is he did a project wherein he said that give me your rough hand drawn floor layout, that's the plan of the house, with doors and windows indicated. I will develop the 3D model in 30 seconds or less. Today, Altaf company is Snaptrude. They incubated with us. They graduated to Bangalore, wherein they have been invested from pretty much almost all of the venture capitalists coming forward to invest. He said on a weekly basis, I deal with at least 3 or 4 of them because the product is so potential in terms of solving the architectural challenges. And now he has acquired people, he has been funded by Excel partners. Now understand, it's a product. The size of the market they quickly figured out, because it does not matter whether it's only the Indian architects use, it can be a global market, so market size can be substantial. And the great differentiator is what otherwise would have taken 3 to 4 weeks can now done in few seconds. And the founding team is technically expert. He is willing to hire great people and willing to grow and commit himself by staying with the company for substantial period of time. Naturally, that is very attractive to VCs. So this is precisely what VCs look for to invest in the company. So if you are planning on a startup, don't talk about technology greatness. Altaf didn't say what is his algorithm which translates that 2D picture into a 3D model in 30 seconds. He talked about value only. What happens, how he does, it is entirely up to him. But what I as an VC care is, can it really do in 30 seconds or less, whereas I know it takes at least 3 to 4 weeks. So they do a lot of study, and if the value is clear, then they don't hesitate to invest. Next slide. Okay, I have put in just to compare back, the angels come in the early stage or the seed stage, that's called the seed capital stage, whereas VCs come beyond that, wherein if you see the orange line, it is growing or climbing up. That means productization and scaling up is happening, right? Next slide, please. Okay, this is probably the last slide that I have. The venture capital financing cycle. These are again the buzzwords. So it helps if you sort of understand what these are. So typically, when you start a startup, you have an idea. You build what we call as a minimum viable product. That means it proves what you want to do. And then angels come in and then help you to build 10 of them, 15 of them, 20 of them. After selling 20, then you really want to sell 1,000 because the market is seeking that many, and that's when you approach VCs. Then there is a series A, B, C, various series through which the funding comes, and there is a late stage funding wherein you really would like to go global or really scale up, just like with the big production factory and stuff like that. And finally, once if that happens, VCs realize that the company is making money, they take their share and give it back to the company and say that give us the money which has now a great valuation, and then they take away and then going to invest somewhere else. So it's very simple philosophy of putting the money where there is a need and there is a growth, and then encashing it after exiting it at the right time, which is typically 5 to 10 years, and then make money, and then money is now shared between various investors who have put in money to begin with, and then look for a better alternative to invest in one other startup again. Okay, so this is how the philosophy of angels and the venture capitals work. Next one, I think there is one last slide. Okay, this is a question. So VC funding is a good avenue to fund, because a lot of questions that come, should we really take venture capitalist funding because they seek a certain portion of the company, they bring in their directors. But for the argument's sake, or the level that we are discussing right now, just understand what is angel investment, when to seek that, and when is venture capital come into picture, and then what do you need to know to impress them so that they can invest. But that's pretty much what I wanted to connect with you. You can just ignore these things. I think there are 3 more slides. Go to the last slide again. Just go to the last slide. Okay, this I just thought I should put in there. With all the help of the angels, and now the VCs are coming into the picture. KLE CETI, which is an incubator at KLE Technological University, over 1,200 jobs have been created across here. Now, if you see the Sputnik vaccine, which is being made in India, one of our startup, Navya Biological, now it's acquired by Shilpa Medicare, is making them in Dharwad. They are planning to make 7 crores of them right here in Dharwad. They have acquired about 5 acres of land 3 years ago, which started with 2 people on campus. So today they are like 350 crore plus company. Sankalp Semiconductors, you all know, started with 7 people on campus, and today they are like 850 crores, 850 people with HCL acquiring them at 180 crores. Celium Devices started by one alumni and his brother here. Today they are 100 crore plus company. So understand, all these are not happening or don't have to happen at IITs. They all can happen wherever there are right kind of people with the right attitude. And that is precisely why I have to put in here. And I hope, next please. Since you're all mostly from electronics background, I thought that we have a electronics hardware incubator there in KLE CETI, called HEX, Hubli ESDM Exchange. So please take advantage of what is happening around you. There is no discrimination in terms of whether you come from Gadag or from Lakshmeshwar or from Haryal or from Hubli or Dharwad. You just can be part of any of these development mechanisms that we have, as long as you are willing to work towards developing a new value proposition for India. I think there is a lot of support available these days. So with that, I will close. And if there are any questions, I would be happy to answer. But I guess as a students, this probably is a great understanding of you as to what does it take to build a great company and who are all involved in this. Though it is a very short and quick presentation, I think that it probably suffices at this level. Thank you so much. I think we have a few minutes. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to take. Arpita, am I audible?
Sir, you're audible. Arpita?
Yes.
Arpita?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay. Continue.
I would request the participants, if there is there are any sort of questions to be asked to the sir, you're free to ask.
Okay, great. Thank you, guys. I appreciate the opportunity given to me, and hope that you can take some value out of it. And I wish you all the very best, because I know you guys can do a whole lot of things. I have visited TC Gadag on many occasions when Professor Auti invited me, and I could see there are a lot of potential there. Great projects that I went through, the final year projects. I was really excited about it, and I'm sure many of you probably will also do a great job. We might not meet in person, but necessarily, I know that there is right kind of leadership that is willing to make you successful. So I wish you all the very best, and good luck to all of you.
Thank you, sir. Now that we wrap up the event here, I would like to call upon Prajwala to propose vote of thanks.
Our best wishes to all. No event can be a successful without people who dedicate their time and resources. I like to express our sincere thanks to resource person Dr. Nitin Kulkarni sir for giving an excellent coverage about Indian startup ecosystem and angel investment. It's a very great and informative session, sir. Thank you so much. And I would like to thank our most honorable principal, Dr. M.M. Avdi sir, for providing this opportunity. I express my gratitude to President Dr. Venkatesh Bhandke sir, Vice President Professor Jayesh Shivangutti sir, and event organizer Professor Chabama Koti ma'am to take out their time to the grace event. And also extend my gratitude to all esteemed organizing committee, Dr. Irana K. Sir, Dr. Arun Kumar Sir, Dr. M.B. Uttarkar Sir, Professor S.S. Kangal Sir, Professor Manjunath Kamar Sir, Professor Arun A.S. Sir, Mrs. Mukta S.P. Ma'am, and Mrs. Snehalata J.H. Ma'am, and Professor Anand Ali Sir for their presence and contribution to make this webinar a great success. Thank you everyone for taking the time to be here and make this event a very successful. Thank you, and all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Prajwala. Thank you, sir, for joining with us, and we'll continue the further part. I thank everyone for sharing their time and spending their time on this interesting session. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.